Section 2.5.5, a racist justice system? Hello, I'm Dr. Adam McKee, and today we're tackling the critical issue of racism within the criminal justice system, a key topic from my book, Criminal Justice, an overview of the system. We'll explore how racial disparities manifest in the system, the underlying causes, and the importance of addressing these issues to create a more equitable and just society. Let's dive in. A racist system? The United States is a multiracial and multi-ethnic country, but this diversity has unfortunately led to racism. Racism is the belief that one race is superior to another. In America, racism often manifests as white Americans discriminating against racial and ethnic minorities. Historically, these minorities have not been given equal footing in important aspects of life like employment, housing, education, healthcare, and criminal justice. When this unequal treatment is willful, it can be referred to as racial discrimination. The law forbids racial discrimination in the criminal justice system, just as it does in the workplace. Disproportionate minority contact. Disproportionate minority contact refers to the disproportionately high number of minorities who come into contact with the criminal justice system. This problem is present in both the adult and juvenile systems at every level. As the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system, the police are often accused of discriminatory practices. Courts are not immune to cries of racism from individuals and politically active groups. For example, African Americans are still incarcerated for drug offenses at a rate much higher than whites, despite using drugs at similar rates. The literature on disproportionate minority sentencing distinguishes between legal and extra-legal factors. Legal factors are those things we accept as legitimately, as a matter of law, mitigating or aggravating criminal sentences. Such things as the seriousness of the offense and the defendant's prior criminal record fall into this category. Extra-legal factors include things like class, race, and gender. These are regarded as illegitimate factors in determining criminal sentences. They have nothing to do with the defendant's criminal behavior and everything to do with the defendant's status as a member of a particular group. One way to measure racial disparity is to compare the proportion of people that are members of a particular group, their proportion in the general population, with the proportion of that group at a particular stage in the criminal justice system. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, African Americans made up 13.4% of the U.S. population in 2020, but they accounted for 28.5% of all arrests in 2019. From this information, we can see that the proportion of African Americans arrested was more than double what we would expect. The disparity is even more pronounced when it comes to drug crime. According to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, African Americans represent only 13% of the population of drug users. However, they account for 29% of those arrested for drug offenses and 34% of those incarcerated in state prisons for drug offenses. Explanations for racial disparities. There are three primary explanations for these disparities in the criminal justice system. The first is individual racism. Individual racism refers to a particular person's beliefs, assumptions, and behaviors. This type of racism manifests when individual police officers, defense attorneys, prosecutors, judges, parole board members, or parole officers are bigoted. Another explanation for racial disparities in the criminal justice system is institutional racism. Institutional racism manifests itself when departmental policies, both formal and informal, regulations, and laws result in unfair treatment of a particular group. A third explanation is differential involvement in crime. The basic idea is that African Americans and Hispanics are involved in more criminal activity, which is tied to social problems like poor education, poverty, and unemployment. Impact of racial disparities. While it does not seem that bigotry is present in every facet of the criminal and juvenile justice systems, there appear to be pockets of prejudice within both systems. It is difficult to deny the data. Discrimination occurs in areas such as the use of force by police and the imposition of the death penalty. According to a report by the NAACP, African Americans are incarcerated at a rate 5 times greater than whites. The report further reveals that, as of 2021, African Americans accounted for 33% of the sentenced prison population, while non-Hispanic whites accounted for 29%, Hispanics 23%, and non-Hispanic Asians 2%. The disparity is also evident in drug offenses. African Americans and Latinos are more likely to be arrested and incarcerated for drug offenses than whites, despite similar rates of drug use across races. As of 2021, African Americans represented 13.4% of the U.S. population but accounted for 28.5% of arrests for drug abuse violations. In comparison, whites represented 61.5% of the U.S. population but accounted for 66.4% of arrests for drug abuse violations. Addressing racial disparities. The causes of the disparities in the criminal justice system are complex and multifaceted. While individual racism and institutional racism remain factors, research has also highlighted the role of socioeconomic and environmental factors, including poverty, limited educational opportunities, and discrimination in housing and employment. The criminal justice system must continue to address these disparities and work towards more equitable and just outcomes for all individuals, regardless of race or ethnicity. This can involve policy changes, including reforms to drug laws and mandatory minimum sentences, and efforts to address systemic inequalities in education, employment, and other areas contributing to the cycle of poverty and crime. Efforts to reform the system can include bias training. Implementing mandatory bias training for all criminal justice professionals to reduce individual and institutional racism. Community policing. Promoting community policing strategies to build trust between law enforcement and minority communities. Sentencing reform. Revising sentencing guidelines to ensure fairness and reduce disparities, especially in drug-related offenses. Restorative justice. Expanding restorative justice programs that focus on reconciliation and rehabilitation rather than punishment. In conclusion, the United States criminal justice system exhibits significant racial disparities that stem from a combination of individual racism, institutional racism, and differential involvement in crime due to social inequities. Addressing these disparities requires a multifaceted approach that includes policy reforms, community engagement, and a commitment to equity and justice for all individuals. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, leave them in the comments below. See you next time.